Last night, we all heard the news. There was shock, there was sorrow, there were prayers, there was anger. We had just seen the headlines about Charlie Kirk's killing, and maybe for a brief moment, there was that pause, that rare moment of quiet or reflection. A man is dead, killed in front of an audience of hundreds. A family is grieving, and for a brief moment, it was a time of sympathy and grief. But it only took hours before the right-wing machine came out of standby mode, shocking exactly 0 people who'd been following politics for more than a few months. That moment of silence has now flipped into a full-blown propaganda cow. Suddenly it's wall-to-wall outrage about free speech being under attack, and these sweeping claims that the left, the centre-left, the far-left, or anyone who's not on their team, is dragging America and the West into some dark abyss. The reality is that politically motivated violence is not new, especially in the US. They've had it for as long as there's been politics there. And let's be real, it's not exactly one-sided either. People on both ends of the spectrum have carried out awful and deadly acts. But here's the thing. What is one-sided is the fear-mongering that comes with it. Because every time it happens to someone on the right, we hear this drumbeat about society collapsing, the war on conservatives, the jihad against free speech, the erosion of Western values. Yet, when it happens the other way round, like the killings of Joe Cox or Melissa Hortman, that moment of silence lasts considerably longer. Donald Trump, of course, takes to the mic and says, it's time to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequences of demonizing those with whom you disagree. And honestly, yeah, that's true. But here's the kicker. Progressives have been saying the exact same thing for years about immigrants, about minorities, about queer folks, about trans women, and basically anyone who doesn't fit the conservative mould. We've been shouting, stop demonizing people because your words have consequences. But these are the same people who will look you dead in the eye and tell you that immigrants are invaders, that trans people are groomers, that Black Lives Matter activists are terrorists. These are the same people who will tell you that Democrats are criminals who stole the election. Communists are the enemies of America. They called Obama a fascist who wasn't even a US citizen. They called Jeremy Corbyn a Hamas-supporting anti-Semite and a Russian spy. And now suddenly they want you, the same folks they've been demonizing non-stop, to show sympathy, to fall in line, to keep quiet. It's whiplash. GB News tells us that Charlie Kirk has done so much for free speech, so of course it's relevant to shed a tear for it. See, he goes to campuses, he reaches out across the aisle, he welcomes debate with those who staunchly disagree with him. Why yes, how noble, a leader of a conservative think tank is really sticking his neck out there for free speech and open discussion, and he's not just farming clips of epic takedowns of scrambled leftist talking points uttered by students against a professional rhetorician with a rehearsed script and a fact sheet in front of him. Alongside Kirk, you've got the circle of red pill conservatives like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro, who are not exactly known for their own civil, unifying rhetorics. In the UK, we've got Nigel Farage, the #1 Trump chump, showing up in Congress. Instead of representing Clacton in Westminster, he takes a trip stateside to talk about the dangers of online safety standards being imposed on social media sites seeking the UK market. Whilst arguing against the UK's decision to protect users from terrorist propaganda and child pornography on sites whose admin can't be bothered to filter that out, he cites the tragic case of Lucy Connolly, a woman who was arrested after condoning the burning of asylum seekers alive in hotels. His defence, it was inelegant, but it reflected the commonly held sentiment in the UK at the time. That apparently is the standard now. Other talking heads like Lawrence Fox and Carl Benjamin are calling the Scottish-born SNP leader a coloniser and telling him to fuck off back to where he came from, which would of course be Lanarkshire, for his inflammatory video about the saltire representing everyone who calls Scotland home. These Englishmen have simply had enough of Scottish people saying what their national flag represents for them. And for all this patriotism and sovereignty they speak of, I wonder what their views on Scottish independence is. These people don't care about hateful rhetoric, they never have. For decades, they've told you not to care about it. Sticks and stones, it's just free speech, don't be so sensitive, shut up you triggered woke snowflake. Just go to the X profiles of some of these lovers of civility, see what kind of rhetoric they're spinning against leftists and minorities. You think if any violence occurred against a left-wing public speaker, such as the killing of Joe Cox, they'd be taking a step back and accepting responsibility? Fuck no. Some would say they don't bat an eye. But now that it's one of their own, suddenly words are dangerous. Suddenly rhetoric has consequences. Suddenly we all need to have a national conversation and not be so quick to demonize those who think differently to us. And by us, they do simply mean them. They'll whip up the idea that the left are the worst thing since unsliced bread and watch in indifference as right-wing extremists terrorize us and those who we stand up for. And then they'll wag their little fingers when they end up victim to their own medicine. And no, I do not condone political violence. I never have and I never will. Let me be clear. Charlie Kirk was frankly a terrible person in the public arena. He was a racist and he was a transphobe and he was a homophobe. But he was also a son, a husband and a father. And losing someone like that, outside the political theatre, is deeply sad. His family don't deserve this, no family does. And on sober reflection, neither does he, neither does anyone. But that's where my sympathy ends. I'm not getting on the tear wagon many of the populist right want us all to board, because that's what they want. They want you crying, scared, ashamed, or looking for someone to blame if not yourself. The reality is last night is just another cycle of the roundabout. They inflame, they get attacked, they call for civility, and eventually they'll be straight back to inflaming again, if they're not already. And they are already. And that's just the eternal merry-go-round of populist conservatism. They're already pointing their fingers again at the left, at progressives, at anyone who's ever called out their nonsense for what it is. Divisive, hateful, dangerous, and above all, hypocritical. Well, I'm not falling for it.